Are you tired of feeling like your stomach has its own agenda? Like the bloating, gas, or constant trips to the bathroom are running your life? Welcome to the Beyond Bloated podcast, the podcast where we tackle those frustrating gut issues head on, without strict diets or giving up your favorite foods. I'm Carly, a certified gut health coach who's been there, struggling with bloating that made me look 6 months pregnant, gut pain that kept me from enjoying meals, and fatigue so draining it felt impossible to get through the day. Now, I help women like you find freedom from those symptoms and take back control of their lives. Each week, we'll debunk gut health myths, dive into simple, actionable tips, and hear stories from women who've been exactly where you are. It's time to feel confident, energized, and bloat-free. Let's get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Beyond Bloated podcast, or welcome for the very first time. Today's episode is focused on something that you probably have not thought much about when it comes to digestion. If you're anything like how I was back in the thick of my gut health journey, you likely have explored all sorts of diets and supplement protocols, and you're probably here listening to this podcast because those methods didn't work for you either. Something that I know I definitely didn't think about during my journey was how something as simple and basic as sunlight impacts digestion. Today's guest had also felt like she tried everything to help her ditch the weight she put on after having 4 whole entire children, but no matter how healthy she ate or how much she exercised, her weight did not budge. After she heard a podcast talking about the power of circadian rhythm, she started doing things a little differently. And that is when everything changed for her. Sara Morera is a metabolism and hormone practitioner for moms, and she helps those sleepy ladies have more energy and lose the unwanted weight. One of the main ways that she helps them do this is by utilizing the power of the sun. In our conversation today, Sara will share with us her own health journey, what circadian rhythm is and why it's important for digestion, weight, and even hormone health, in ways that you can start utilizing this powerful and often overlooked tool in your own life. So without further ado, let's welcome Sara Morera to the Beyond Bloated podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Of course, so excited to be here.
I like to give our guests the spotlight and let us know what got you into holistic health, circadian rhythm, all the things that you are obsessed with.
Yes, so I actually, believe it or not, my issue started with my gut all the way back when I was a teenager. So this has been a long journey for me. It started back when I was 15 years old with major gut symptoms, mostly acid reflux and bloating and stomach pains and things like that, constipation. And so that's where I, began my journey with actually conventional medicine. And I went to multiple doctors, specialists, all the things that you do, had endoscopies done, and they found nothing. So it was really frustrating, like when that happened, because obviously, if anyone can relate, you go to these doctors wanting answers. And when you go and they say everything's normal, but you feel like absolute crap, it's really frustrating. So I was prescribed a PPI, not told that I was not supposed to take it long term. And on my own as a teenager, kind of had this realization of like, why do I want to take this medication for the rest of my life? Yes, it's helping me, but what are the negative effects? So I started doing my own research very early on and, started with simple things. Maybe I need to take gluten out of my diet. Maybe I need to, reduce sugar. Maybe I need to do all these things that we're told. And back then, that was probably 20 years ago almost. And so gluten wasn't really as talked about as it is today. So it was difficult to do these things, but it helped. And I started to get better and it was awesome to see that. So I went into nursing because I wanted to help people after I kind of figured out how to help myself and quickly realized that nursing is very similar. It's conventional medicine as well. So it was a lot of, working with medications, and that's how you helped people with their symptoms was through medications. And you would see the same repeat patients coming in and out and never really getting better. And so that's when I really had the idea to get more into functional health or holistic health, to see if that was a potential where I could actually help people in the way that I knew I could. So I did a couple certifications. And in that time, like even when I was going through those certifications, I have 4 kids. And so in my last 2 pregnancies, I was diagnosed with gestational diabetes. And that is when a lot of my like energy issues started. I started to not be able to lose weight like after in between pregnancies. And so it was the weight gain and it was fatigue. I mean, the fatigue was unreal at that point in time. So it was almost like my gut issues were under control, but then I started having all these other hormonal symptoms pop up. And, I find that it happens frequently like after pregnancy. As a nurse, I was a labor and delivery nurse and postpartum nurse. So saw this a lot and realized, never before did I realize the connection, but looking back now, I realize it's all related. The gut issues, the fatigue, and then the hormone issues, all related. So I had heard on a podcast, believe it or not, randomly one day, someone talking about circadian rhythm. And I had never put too much thought into it before that. It was always just diet and exercise and all the things that we do in the functional health world. But when I heard this particular person talking about circadian rhythm in the way that she did, which I guess, we'll probably get into in this episode, the light bulb went off in that moment. And I was like, this is something that a lot of people are missing. And in my own journey, when I started implementing these things, I saw tremendous improvement in things like my fatigue. I was able to lose weight in after having my 4th baby, which was nearly impossible. I felt like before that, even eating healthy and doing all the things. So yeah, that's what really led me into this specific area of holistic health.
Very cool. I love that it was a podcast that kind of got you
Yes.
interested in
Literally.
circadian rhythm or like even introduced you to it. And I also love that it is something other than diet and supplements that you can do to improve your health. Because I know we were talking before we started recording this, how a lot of people come to us and they're already, doing a lot of the things. They're eating really healthy. They're taking a million supplements. They've done the tests and it's like, what now? I'm already doing everything. But circadian rhythm is a thing that most people are not probably focusing on. So with that, could you tell us what is circadian rhythm?
Yes, this is a very complicated topic. So to really look at it in a simplistic way is probably the best way to do it because it really is so important. So a lot of people, at least in my practice, will come to me saying, I have high cortisol or, I think insulin is a problem for me. Maybe I have insulin resistance or something like that. So when we look at circadian rhythm, it's really the way that our bodies are wired to be throughout the day. So cortisol is a hormone that runs on circadian rhythm. When we wake up, cortisol naturally rises to start that process and give us energy in the morning, and then slowly through the day will decline. As cortisol is declining through the day and into the evening time, that's when melatonin can then rise, help you get tired and fall asleep and stay asleep and start that regenerative process when you're sleeping. And then the same cycle starts over the next day. So it's really this continual rhythm that our body follows on a daily basis.
Very cool. Yeah, and that's very important too for the cortisol because cortisol is a hormone and your circadian rhythm is impacting your hormones, your gut health, all of the things. So can you tell us a little bit more about how there is a connection between circadian rhythm, hormones, and gut health?
Yes. When we look at hormones, for example, people often wonder, they see things like progesterone and estrogen and testosterone, and they think that's what they usually think of when and myself included, right? When we think of hormones. But there are more important hormones essentially above those. So cortisol, insulin, these things are really important for those other hormones. And the cortisol will affect those downstream eventually if we don't take care of cortisol. So it's really hard, for example, to do things like increase progesterone, right, for our cycle health and have estrogen be in a healthy range. It's really hard for that to happen if cortisol is completely out of whack. And when cortisol is out of whack, our blood sugar is as well. And we know that that can lead to a lot of issues, right? So just by focusing on your circadian rhythm and your circadian signaling, these hormones will likely be more in balance to lead to more balanced sex hormones and cycle health eventually. When it comes to your gut health, these things are really connected because it's so interesting. Honestly, the sunlight, like being exposed to natural sunlight, triggers so many cascades in your body. It triggers your mitochondria in specific areas to work well and start producing energy, right? Like when you wake up and you see the natural sunrise, it rises cortisol. and that triggers your digestion. So oftentimes if people are struggling with gut issues, we have to make sure that we're giving our body the proper signals to know that it's daytime and that we should be digesting well. And digestion happens so much better when it's daytime rather than when it's nighttime. So that's why a lot of the times when we talk about how the two relate, it's like, well, we should be eating and digesting during the day, and at night we don't digest so well. And so that's really the cool connection there that I've found through this.
I know I've heard a lot about like the body clock and, like we're supposed to eat with sunrise till sunset, get morning sunlight. Obviously, these things are difficult to do when you are working in a hospital or you're working a night shift or you have kids and you're taking care of everybody but yourself. How are we not supporting our circadian rhythm? Like, what are some common things that you see in everyday life that are impacting this natural process negatively?
Yeah, I see it a lot. And one of the first thing that comes to mind, and one of the biggest things that I see all the time is skipping breakfast. And with the intermittent fasting craze that has happened in the last few years, I feel like all of a sudden everyone's skipping breakfast because they hear the word intermittent fasting and they think they need to shorten their eating window. So they skip breakfast for probably a few different reasons. I would say, like you said, busyness. The morning time is usually like people are getting up, they're rushing to work, they're getting ready, and that breakfast just isn't a priority. And because cortisol can shoot so high in the morning if we're running on coffee or very little nutrients, we just get in this habit of just not even being hungry in the morning. And it leads to this cycle of, we just don't eat till noon, and that becomes normal. So that's one thing that is, I would say, probably one of the most harmful things in terms of circadian health. Another thing is working out fasted, waking up at 5 a.m. for your fasted workout, just because that's when you can fit it in. Right. And so really those are probably the two most common things that I see.
I'm so glad you said breakfast because I am a big believer in eating your damn breakfast.
Me too.
I love breakfast.
Yep.
If I don't eat breakfast within like an hour, I literally get shaky. I'm like irritable. I'm like, bring me the food.
Yep.
So I agree. Especially for women, I actually listened recently to Fast Like a Girl. There's so much more to it. We won't go into that. This isn't a fasting episode, but there is so much more to it than just don't eat. It relates to our hormones, where we're at in our cycle, if you even cycle, like there's so much more to it. So if you are just not eating breakfast because you believe you're fasting, this is what you do, I encourage you to try to eat breakfast and see what that does for you. Because you're right. Like a lot of times people think they're not hungry in the morning, so they shouldn't eat, but it's because cortisol's high or they're drinking coffee, which is an appetite suppressant. So they think they're not hungry, but they are. They're just,
Yeah.
it's being suppressed.
Exactly.
So I agree. Breakfast, eat it. It's delicious. So that would be step one, I guess, is like eat breakfast, or that's part of step one. What would be your ideal day? Like walk us through I'm doing a great circadian rhythm day.
Everything's good. Yeah. I think this will look different for a lot of people depending on their work schedule, their environment through the day, like what they do. Do you work full time? Do you not? Do you have kids? Like it really depends. For me, and I guess I'll go through now. So I work from home. I'm on the computer primarily most of the day. And so for me, I prioritize morning sunlight, truly. And I know this is something that gets thrown around there as, get outside, get your morning sunlight. It really is one of the most important things when it comes to circadian health and getting your blood sugar under control, getting your cortisol under control, your insulin, all of these hormones, getting your digestion primed for the day. So when we get outside in the morning, it's full of red light. Red light is available to us all day long, but primarily the light in the morning is primarily red light. And you see people buying these red light devices all the time, and nothing against them. I think they're amazing, especially I know you live in Canada, so you could probably relate to maybe, not having adequate sunlight all year. And in those times it could be necessary, but we have this free red light outside all the time available to us. Even if it's cloudy, even if it's raining, it still penetrates through the clouds. It's still available. Maybe not in the same amount that it is on a bright day in the summer, but it is still available to us. So that is one of the most important things. I prioritize that daily. And I often tell people, if you're busy in the mornings, drink your tea outside, drink your coffee outside, eat your breakfast outside, get outside. If it's wintertime, open a window. I'm from the north, so I understand the cold weather. It's not fun. But at the same time, there are ways that we can utilize it without fully stepping outside in the freezing cold weather. And then I would say, like we talked about, eat breakfast, ideally with or before your coffee. If you have a commute to work, I often tell people to roll your windows down, right? Because that is another way people say, I just don't have time in the morning to get sunlight. So I would roll my windows down. For me, at home on my computer, I am using a filter on my screen. And you can link that down below for people, but it's called Iris. That is a great way to block some of that blue light that's coming off the screen if you're on computers all day. It kind of mimics, it's the same thing as the blue blockers, the yellow version for the daytime, similar to that, which can be really helpful to not have that blue light in isolation in your eyes all day. So you're missing you're missing the beneficial red light that we get in the natural sun, and you're only getting that blue light, which confuses your body. It confuses your body to think that it's, maybe noon when it's 5 p.m. and you're still working on the computer. Another thing that I recommend too is taking light breaks through the day. So I will often, after my calls, I will take 10 minutes to go outside and just sit outside, maybe have, my afternoon drink or cook lunch and then eat outside. I as much as I can get out, I do. And that really sets you up for cortisol that is regulated through the day, and you're helping with sleep. So if anyone wants to know how to help sleep, it starts with morning light and midday sun. Be getting outside as much as you can to help with that melatonin production when it's needed in the evening time. The last thing that I do is make sure to avoid artificial light at night, because again, it's the similar aspect to what happens when you're in front of your computer all day. We're getting a lot of artificial blue light in isolation from LED lights, bright overhead lights in the house. So either you could, and it's summertime, so it's light a lot later, which is very helpful. But in the wintertime, it gets dark, 4 or 5 p.m. sometimes. So I definitely recommend like the orange blue blockers to block some of that light off when it's, once the sun goes down before bedtime.
So it really is just aligning yourself with the sun, when the sun comes out, go look at it. Don't like directly look at it, but
be out in there.
Yeah, go out there, have your breakfast before caffeine to help with cortisol, and you are hungry, whether you know it or not. And then take breaks throughout the day, make sure you're not just inside in the sad darkness. Go outside if possible, take a walk, get sunlight. Even if it's cloudy, it still comes through the clouds, it still counts. And then when the sun goes down, do you recommend getting off technology?
So ideally, yes, in a perfect world, right? But especially I find it really difficult in winter. Once the time changes, once it's darker earlier, that's really hard for people like to say, okay, after 4 or 5 p.m., get off all screens, TV, your phone. So in that case, I would just say minimize the lighting in the house as much as possible. But I'm wearing my orange blue blocking glasses very frequently during the winter time. In the summertime, not so much, because again, we have that natural light out till about, 9 p.m. for some people. So, as long as it's pitch black out and you're either using those glasses or you're putting filters on your screens, which is possible on your computer or your phone, you can do a red light filter. That would be beneficial too.
Awesome. And these things definitely help with sleep. Like anyone who is struggling with sleep, try resetting your circadian clock. Like you get that natural sunlight in the morning, you try to get off technology at least 30 minutes, an hour before bed, wear your blue light blockers. Try not eating also, like after dinner, that helps with digestion. This will help with sleep. And sleep is so important for repairing your gut. Like if you have gut issues and you're sleeping 5 hours a night, you are going to continue to have gut issues. You need to sleep.
Yes.
That is when your whole body repairs itself. So you're improving your sleep, which is going to improve your digestion. And you're also improving your digestion because your digestion works around the time of the sun. Like when the sun is up, digestion is ready to go. When the sun goes down, it's kind of resting, and you shouldn't be having like massive barbecue at 10 p.m. Would you agree?
Totally. I totally agree. I mean, like you said, the sunlight is important, the natural light in your eyes is important, but also food timing too. People often ask me what my opinion is on intermittent fasting, and I know we talked about this before as well. And while I say I'm against intermittent fasting, that's more so in the sense of people skipping breakfast. If you wanted to have a longer fasting window, that's perfectly fine, but I would do it with an earlier dinner as opposed to a later breakfast, because that more so aligns with your circadian rhythm.
I completely agree. That's funny that you say that because I actually think on my last episode said I'm not for fasting. I believe an overnight fast of I don't eat after dinner and then I
Yep.
eat my breakfast
Yep.
is sufficient for most people.
Yeah.
I know that there are studies and there are proof that fasting can help people. I think it's a little extreme. I personally cannot go without food. It makes me feel terrible. And I actually did a blood sugar monitor test, and my blood sugar was dropping overnight because I needed a little something to get me through. So it's not for everybody. You
Yeah.
need to do your research. Don't just fast because it's a fad, learn about it, work with someone and figure out if it's for you because it's not just like the thing everyone needs to do. I completely agree.
You have to train yourself to get there too. Like there are benefits of a longer fast for some people, but like you said, it's not going to be for everybody and it does take work to get there, especially metabolically. Like you said, I think it's sufficient to have a fast from dinner to breakfast for most people most of the time.
Agreed. I mean, I don't encourage people to fast in my program and they get results. So you don't need a massive I'm skipping every meal in the day type of fast. The other thing I wanted to talk about is the sun in general, because people are a little bit afraid of the sun because it is giving people cancer, allegedly. You get a nasty sunburn that hurts. What is your take on the sun? Hey everyone, Carly here. If you are tired of feeling bloated and uncomfortable, which I know you are, I have something that can really help. My free ultimate guide to bloat busting. I've been there myself, and I know how frustrating it is to try super restrictive diets and expensive supplements without getting results. If those methods were going to work, they would have worked by now. That's why I created this guide to offer you a different approach. In the Ultimate Guide to Bloat Busting, you'll learn techniques to listen to your body and eat with intention, avoiding overeating and choosing foods that truly benefit you, tips for proper hydration to support digestion and reduce bloating, a guide to delicious foods that promote a healthy gut and how to easily incorporate them into your meals, and effective methods to manage stress, which plays a huge role in gut health. These simple, practical strategies can make a big difference in your daily life, helping you feel lighter, more energized, and comfortable in your own skin. Ready to ditch the bloat without strict diets or costly supplements? Download your free copy today at beyondbloated.com/ultimate-guide and start your journey to a bloat-free life. Now, let's get back to it.
Yeah, very, very controversial, Carly. But yeah,
Sorry.
no, it's okay because it's about being open-minded to something without jumping all in to making crazy changes, right? I mean, it's definitely healthy for people to have an open mind and to want to learn about things. And I've learned so much. I mean, there is the research on the sun that isn't being promoted by conventional medicine, dermatology, things like that. There is a lot of research on it. So while there is a lot of fear around the sun, there is a lot of research of the benefits of it. Burning is not good. I will start there. Nobody should be burning in the sun. A sunburn is not healthy. It's actually extremely unhealthy to get a sunburn. And a lot of people have had damage from years of not living a circadian healthy lifestyle and then going on vacation to the Bahamas and frying for a week. That is very dangerous. So when we look at the sun from a healthy circadian rhythm perspective, that means not just getting out in the midday to get a tan. That means getting your morning sunlight, first of all, to prime the skin. Because red light is collagen promoting. You're not going to get burned by the morning sun before UVB comes out. And so if we're really living a circadian friendly lifestyle, we're going to be getting that protection from the morning sun. Another thing that there is quite a bit of research on is how sunglasses can affect your body's ability to get the correct signals from the sunlight to know how much skin protection you need. So if you're wearing sunglasses, it's almost like your body thinks or your brain thinks that you're indoors. So you're not going to have those natural defenses come out to protect you from the sun. And a suntan, all it is natural protection. I mean, it's our way of protecting the body from harsher rays. I mean, there is research on even people that wear sunscreen that stay indoors all the time getting more melanoma than people who work outdoors primarily. So there is some other ways of thinking out there and lots of research to back that up. I can give you some people that I like to follow that actually does the research if you wanted to link below for your followers, because I think it's critical to find someone who can actually show what's out there, show the research that's happening for what it is and not what we're just being fed by conventional medicine.
Agreed. And I'm sorry for throwing you under the bus there. I wasn't even going to ask that question, but I was like, let's talk about the sun.
It's an important one. It truly is. And like if people could just look at it with more of an open mind, that's winning in my book. Because like I said, it is dangerous to say, yeah, like you should go outside midday every day for 2 hours if you're not ready for that. I mean, that is not something that's smart. But when we can learn how to utilize the sun to our benefit in a healthy way, instead of sunscreen, maybe we cover with more clothing if we're going to be outside, or we find shade, right? There are other ways. And of course, there are sometimes where you just can't avoid being in the sun and you know you're going to get burned. Wear sunscreen on that day. If you're at the beach, you're on vacation, whatever it is. But for the most part, there are ways, I live in Florida and I'm pretty fair and I know my tolerance. So that's another part of it, is just understanding your own tolerance of the sun and building up to a safe amount of UVB light in the midday, because I had chronically low vitamin D levels, and I'm happy to say that I've increased those to a normal range with no supplementation at all in the last year. I'm very proud about that, and I have no sunburn in the process of doing that. So
That is amazing. And that is another thing. Well, okay, let me back up a second. So first of all, we are not saying go outside and get a sunburn to reset your circadian rhythm. We're
yeah,
saying go get 5 to 10 minutes of morning sunlight when it's not going to burn you. If you are outside, it may be beneficial to not wear sunglasses because that helps your body protect itself against the sun. But if
yes,
you are going to be outside for long periods of time, you may need some sunscreen because burning is bad. The sun can burn you. The sun is also healing and can help you with your sleep and your digestion, but it can also burn you. So please be careful when
yes.
outside. But I want to talk about the vitamin D because that's another great thing that the sun can do. I don't know if people know much about vitamin D, to be honest, or where it comes from, what it does for you. Real quick, do you want to just give a little summary about it?
Yeah, so vitamin D is very misunderstood, I would say, and it's very easy for people to quickly just say, "Well, I'm taking a vitamin D supplement, so I'm good." And a lot of doctors recommend this too. I mean, they put everyone on vitamin D. The thing about vitamin D is it's critical, especially for your immune health, your hormone health, your metabolic health, bone health, like so many things, inflammation. I mean, I don't even know what there could be that vitamin D doesn't help with. It's so universal. We need it. We need it for our bodies. And you could think of, vitamin D as a marker of how much sun that we've gotten, not necessarily how much you've gotten in a supplement. And I'm not saying don't supplement. If you need it, that's a different story. But we also want to think about the sun piece too and adding that in when we can. Because like I said, it's not so much just what you're getting from a supplement or a pill. It's more so how much midday sun do you get? Because you could think of it as a nutrient that our body actually does need and that we're lacking. And so you will see the effects of increasing your vitamin D naturally in a good way. Like people oftentimes will get way less sick when they have adequate vitamin D levels. So really good immune health, and it really helps support calcium absorption too. So people often talk about, I take vitamin D and I take calcium, but they're still dealing with osteoporosis. Well, if you're out in the sun and you're getting an adequate amount, it does help with that absorption of the calcium. Because more likely you're getting enough calcium because all of our foods are fortified with it. So most people are getting enough. It's just that we're not absorbing it properly. So when we think about vitamin D and vitamin and calcium and magnesium, all these things, they all work together. So it's not about just supplementing one thing. It's about getting all the adequate nutrients that we need because they all work together and they all need each other to work in the body properly.
Absolutely. I was also going to say magnesium. Magnesium and vitamin D work together.
Yep.
And I know magnesium's a really hot topic too. People are
Yeah.
all about, I need to take magnesium because magnesium and vitamin D are both hard to get from food.
Correct.
We don't have sufficient amounts in our food supply. So a magnesium supplement, a vitamin D supplement may be necessary. But the sun, like you said, is a free source that our bodies uses the sun to convert it into vitamin D.
Yes.
So you're resetting your circadian rhythm, you're sleeping better. You're getting vitamin D, which is going to help with digestion, immunity. Your immune system literally is in your gut. So go outside in the sunlight. Thank you for all of this information. Could you please let us know where we can find you and learn more about your work, Sara?
Of course. So I will send you my Instagram to link below. Sara Morera Health is my Instagram and my website. So you can find me there. I also have a podcast called Hormone Health for Moms, and I'm there 2 times a week putting out new content for you guys all about hormones and this exact topic: cortisol, insulin, blood sugar, even a little bit of gut health. That is where you can find me.
Amazing. I will link all of that in the show notes, and I highly encourage everyone to check out Sara. She is incredible. She is a mom of 4 herself, and she does it all. She improved her own health while momming it up, so it is very possible, and she can definitely help you do the same. So thank you so much for joining us today and sharing all of your knowledge with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it so much, and I cannot wait to have you back on my podcast to talk about all the gut stuff.
Can't wait. Did you learn something new and useful today? If the answer is a big, resounding hell yeah, do me a favor. Subscribe to this podcast. Even better, toss a rating in there too. It helps more bloated babes discover this show and lets me keep bringing you this free, gut-loving content every single week. And hey, don't be greedy. Share this episode with your bestie who's always unbuttoning her pants after dinner. She will love you even more for it. Thanks for hanging out with me and showing your gut some love. Keep on putting what you learn into practice and you will be bloat free in no time. Catch you in the next one. Bye.